What's up, meta nerds? In taking the plunge into Gundam lore breakdowns, we'll include more episodes and specific lore points, individual ships, locations, that kind of stuff. Everything you need to really understand and appreciate this great, true sci-fi that simply has one of the best cool factors of all time. But in that effort, I found that I kept going further back and realizing that I need to attempt the perhaps foolish, but nonetheless fascinating lore and real-life inspiration behind the Minovsky particles. So this video will cover Trenov Y. Minovsky's complete life, what the particle is and what it does, and all the real-world stuff worked in along the way. Trenov Y. Minovsky was born in 1983, Universal Century 0015, near Chernobyl, Ukraine. At the age of 3, he witnessed a catastrophic Chernobyl disaster.
There has been a nuclear accident in the Soviet Union, and the Soviets have admitted that it happened. The Soviet version is this. One of the atomic reactors at the Chernobyl atomic power plant near the city of Kiev was damaged, and there is speculation in Moscow that people were injured and may have died.
Which may prove to be terrible foreshadowing of how the most complicated marvels of modern physics could fail terribly through a complex interaction of all too human behaviors. Not a physics problem causing Chernobyl per se, but everything from high-level political corruption to local laziness and accidents. In 1999, UC 31, his family relocated to America, where he began his education and initiated work on what he called Minovsky physics. At the time, his theories were considered highly speculative and unrealistic, with few understanding their potential. Despite this, his friend Ionesco informed him that Anaheim Electronics had agreed to fund his research, a development that thrilled Minovsky but left Ionesco less enthusiastic. This story parallels early work in quantum physics at the start of the 1900s. But let me keep on telling this story and I'll interject the real-world lore in a sec. Their primary focus was the development of a nuclear fusion reactor, and in the 40s, work began on the Minovsky-Ionesco reactor. Though Minovsky's work faced harsh criticism at a scientific conference in UC 40, it was concluded that the Minovsky particle had no connection to nuclear fusion reactors, and his thesis was dismissed. Ionesco argued that the particle had only conventional technological applications, and no evidence supported its existence as a unique phenomenon. The reactor, originally designed by Dr. T.Y. Minovsky during his time with the Earth Federation, was considered what's called black box technology. Its principles were poorly understood by the classical physics community, which in the Gundam universe, all of what we consider modern physics, including quantum physics, is at this point all called classical physics. Minovsky had proposed a grand unified theory aimed at bridging Albert Einstein's theory of relativity with quantum mechanics, but his work was dismissed by the mainstream physics community, who saw his hypothetical particle as a revival of the outdated ether concept. He was branded a fraud, and this rejection led to his exile from the scientific community in UC 45. Shortly after, he was approached by the Zabi family and moved to Side 3, where he founded the Minovsky Physics Society. Pause in the story here to point out the parallels to quantum and nuclear physics and Einstein in World War II. Specifically, as spoiler alert, this tech is what powers all the sci-fi weapons of war in the Gundam universe. And I think this real-world physics history shows this idea that a whole new set of physics that we are unaware of, that can rapidly change so much tech, is actually very plausible and not just simple space magic. Obviously, the greatest tech jump in all human history is in the 1900s. In the very first year of that century, in the year 1900, Max Planck proposed that energy is not continuous but quantized, meaning it is emitted or absorbed in discrete units, later called quanta. He introduced this famous equation, where E is energy, H is Planck's constant, and V is the frequency of radiation, and this marked the birth of quantum theory. In 1905, we get Einstein's theory of relativity, the famous equation that revealed that mass and energy are interchangeable. This provided the theoretical basis for understanding how an atom's nucleus could release enormous amounts of energy if split or fused. Remember, Minovsky was working on fusion power. Einstein's equation showed that even a tiny amount of mass could be converted into a tremendous amount of energy, as we've seen in the real world with nuclear fission.
Those neutrons bombard other uranium atoms, causing them to split and split still others. The result? A chain reaction. Over 1,000,000 billion atoms exploding within 2 seconds.
In 1916, Einstein introduced general relativity, which describes space and time as a flexible fabric, space-time, which is warped by mass and energy. Some critics argued that this sounded like a modern revival of the ether, as space-time seemed to behave like a medium influencing physical phenomena. In 1920, Einstein himself stated, quote, "We may say that space is endowed with physical qualities. In this sense, therefore, there exists an ether. but he clarified that this ether was not the same as the mechanical, substance-like ether of pre-relativity physics. And it's that same knee-jerk reaction from the scientist in Minovsky's life that had him dismissed for proposing a new ether theory. But that part we saw where Minovsky was horrified by how his breakthroughs could be used for war seems inspired by Einstein's relation to the atomic bomb. The timeline goes something like this. In 1939, physicists Leo Szilard and Eugene Wigner approached Einstein, seeking his help to alert the US government about the potential for Nazi Germany developing nuclear weapons. Together, Szilard and Einstein wrote a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning that uranium could be used to create a powerful new weapon and urging the US to fund research into nuclear fission. This letter, known as the Einstein-Szilard letter, is often credited with sparking US interest in nuclear weapons research and leading to the establishment of the Manhattan Project in 1942. And to tie this to the Japanese writers creating Gundam only a generation after the war, it is said that after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, Einstein expressed deep regret about his indirect role in the bomb's creation. He famously said, quote, "Had I known that the Germans would not succeed in developing an atomic bomb, I would have done nothing." So Gundam is playing with the idea of great scientists being pulled from opposing governments and their work so quickly being rushed into an arms race that they wanted no part of. Picking up the Gundam narrative on Side 3 with increasing support from the Zabi family and leaders of the future Principality of Zeon movement. The Minovsky Ionesco reactor was groundbreaking as it was the first clean nuclear reactor, producing zero neutron radiation. The reaction it relied on was helium-3 plus hydrogen-1 react to form helium-4 and a proton, releasing 18.35 mega-electron volts of electricity. And so key to that process is helium-3, a rare isotope of helium with 2 protons and 1 neutron fused with deuterium, or heavy hydrogen, to create stable helium-4 in a single proton. The positively charged proton could easily be contained using magnetic fields, eliminating neutron radiation. But the major challenge was the scarcity of helium-3. On Earth, it is only found in small amounts, primarily in depleted uranium mines. The solution to this problem was the development of the Jupiter Energy Fleet. These fleets were tasked with traveling to Jupiter, which would harvest the rich supply of helium-3 in its atmosphere, and transport it all the way back to Earth to fuel the reactors. In real-world physics, helium-3 deuterium fusion would still produce some neutrons due to deuterium-deuterium side reactions, and helium-3 has been discovered on the Moon, but of course its abundance on Jupiter far surpasses any lunar deposits, making Jupiter more significant, and it's also just easier to collect. The Minovsky Physics Society encountered a mysterious electromagnetic wave effect in UC65 while working on the Minovsky Ionesco reactor. After further investigation, they identified the cause: a new elementary particle generated by the helium-3 reaction on the reactor's inner wall. This particle, named the Minovsky particle, or M particle, possesses near-zero rest mass, with its mass increasing based on its potential or kinetic energy. It can carry either a positive or negative electrical charge, and when dispersed in open air or space, the charged Minovsky particles naturally align into a cubic lattice structure called an I field due to their mutual repulsion. The Minovsky particle has significant implications for combat and communications. When scattered in large quantities, the particles disrupt low-frequency electromagnetic radiation, including microwaves and radio waves, and interfere with unshielded electronic circuits due to their high electrical charge. This effect, known as the Minovsky effect, renders radar systems, long-range wireless communication, and precision electronics nearly useless. It also scrambles infrared signals and creates a fog effect with visible light, and interferes with electromagnetic radiation by causing a lattice that blocks or diffracts waves. This disruption is what led to such a rise in close-range combat, as it often made guided weapons like missiles impractical. While bulky shielding could counteract the M particle's effects on electric systems, such solutions were only practical for large ships and not for smaller precision weaponry. This ushered in a new era of warfare dominated by close combat weapons and mobile suits, such as those that were later developed by Zeon. In UC71, Zeon researchers developed the Minovsky Ultra-Compact Fusion Reactor, the evolution of that Minovsky Ionesco reactor. Instead of relying on traditional magnetic fields, this advanced design uses an I field to confine and compress reactor fuel, catalyzing the helium-3 fusion reaction. The reactor recycled Minovsky particles produced during fusion to sustain the reaction itself, functioning similarly to a muon catalyzed fusion, which is studied in real-world physics. This design was 5 times smaller than a conventional MI reactor, making it compact enough to power mobile suits directly without external components. The ultra-compact reactor became the standard for mobile suits, providing an efficient, self-sustained power source. Minovsky further innovated with the fluid pulse system, which utilized Minovsky particles to enable precision altitude control, as well as power the suit's avionics, life support, and mechanical systems. This breakthrough provided mobile suits with functionally unlimited electricity to operate their joints, actuators, and onboard systems, making them highly maneuverable and versatile in combat. And then we see the development of the crucial ECAP, the energy capacitors. A mega particle cannon, like those mounted on space warships, requires a substantial power source, a continuous supply of Minovsky particles, and a large enough condenser to compress those particles into mega particles before firing. Due to these requirements, it initially seemed impossible to equip mobile suits with such weapons, but then we get the ECAP, which allowed for compact beam weaponry with significantly lower power and energy demands. It works by storing Minovsky particles in highly compressed, high-energy states, just below the threshold for fusing into megaparticles. When the weapon is fired, the mobile suit's generator, despite being far less powerful than a warship's, provides just enough energy to complete that process and creates megaparticles needed for the beam. The only catch is the mobile suits cannot recharge the ECAP themselves. Once the capacitor is depleted, the beam weapons become non-functional. Early beam rifles had to be recharged on ships or discarded entirely after their energy was drained. And the last tech I want to touch on is the Minovsky craft system. This takes us outside Trenov's life, but I just feel like it'll help us understand what we're seeing on screen in so many battles in different eras. The eye field, composed of charged particles, cannot penetrate conductive materials like metal, water, or the Earth's surface, and can be easily trapped with electromagnetic fields. At low altitudes, this property enables the creation of an eye field cushion between the underside of the vessel and the ground, creating a sort of buoyancy that counters gravity, a bed of particles, if you will. This principle is utilized by the development of the Minovsky craft system, which allowed spaceships and heavy ground vehicles to hover or sort of fly on Earth. During the 1-year war, the Principality of Zeon was slow to adapt this technology. Only the MAX 03 Adzam and 3 prototype Apsilus mobile armors were equipped with the Minovsky craft systems. While in contrast, the Earth Federation quickly implemented this system on the Pegasus-class assault carriers like Whitebase, enabling these ships to fly within Earth's atmosphere and transition between space and the planet's surface. This system remained too large to be miniaturized for mobile suits until after UC-100. The first mobile suits equipped with such a device were the RF-104FF Penelope, introduced in Hathaway's Flash. The Penelope combined the RX-04 Odysseus Gundam with its fixed flight support unit. Another suit in the same series, the RX-105 G Gundam, also featured an MCS, but with the flight mechanism fully integrated into its structure. The Minovsky craft system eventually evolved into the Minovsky Drive, a more advanced propulsion system, and the first operational MD was installed on the Mother Vanguard, a ship of the Crossbone Vanguard fleet, where it was nicknamed the Sail of Light. This innovation allowed the ship to travel between Earth and Jupiter in just a few weeks, a journey that typically took months. After the Mother Vanguard's destruction, the SNRI, Strategic Naval Research Institute, were able to improve the drive, creating a smaller version that was installed on the F-99 Record Breaker mobile suits, which utilized the Wings of Light for propulsion. Unfortunately, all Record Breaker units, their parts, and related data were lost. Meanwhile, Anaheim Electronics salvaged the Minovsky drive from the wreckage of the Mother Vanguard and developed their own mobile suit featuring a Wings of Light system, later named Icarus by SNRI, after it survived atmospheric re-entry by using the wings as a shield. During the Zanskar War of the UC-150s, the Zanskar Empire deployed mobile suits on Earth equipped with beam rotors, devices that doubled as shields and rotary saws, and which enabled long-range atmospheric flight. At the time, the Ligue Militaire introduced high-performance models like the V Gundam and V2 Gundam, which featured an improved version of the Minovsky craft system, the Minovsky flight system, which takes it all the way from a sort of particle brake or cushion projecting system, almost like a deceleration thruster you would use before impact, and now it's been so refined that it works for atmospheric flight in mobile suits. But back to the life of Trenov. Despite aligning with Side 3, Minovsky became disillusioned with the Zabi family's militaristic regime. In UC-70, Zeon researchers utilized Minovsky particles to disrupt electromagnetic waves, and developed a functional megaparticle cannon. In 71 is when we got those ultra-compact thermonuclear reactors based on Minovsky designs, which became the power source for the Principality's mobile suits. Although Minovsky received an award for his contributions, he publicly rejected it, tossing it aside in front of the entire Zabi family. A bold, disrespectful, and clear gesture of his discontent with the direction that they were taking his work. And in UC-72, he defected to the Earth Federation, where his expertise allowed the Federation forces to narrow the technological gap with Zeon. He would return back to Earth, going back to his hometown near Chernobyl, while he would also spend time at Side 6 and offer his research and theories to the Federation, hoping to balance the military power between the two factions. He later focused on the development of beam weaponry and contributed to the creation of the ECAP, that key technology for mobile suit beam weapons. Despite his efforts to prevent war by enabling a balance of power, his hopes were dashed when the one-year war broke out in UC-79. Some rumors suggest that Minovsky returned to studying the Grand Unified Theory later in life, attempting to unify photons and Minovsky particles. But there is no concrete evidence to confirm this claim, and other reports say that after the one-year war ended in UC-80, he was reportedly surrounded by mobile suits piloted by Zeon remnants, and may have been killed by the very technology he helped create. From a hope to deliver near-endless, cheap, and clean energy via fusion reactions, and just a pure love of understanding nature, he would go to his death knowing that his breakthroughs had, for the foreseeable future, only made mankind more capable in killing each other. But to go back to the point of him trying to work on the Grand Unified Theory to figure out the interaction between photons and Minovsky particles, with one of the traits of Minovsky particles being that they have near zero mass, being so pliable like a base particle able to take on positive or negative charges, it reminds me of the search for the Higgs boson, the so-called God particle. I'm old enough to remember when this was still a theory. It was first proposed in 1964 by Peter Higgs and wasn't discovered until July 4th, 2012. Via extensive research at the Large Hadron Collider.
I would like to add my congratulations to everybody involved in this tremendous achievement. For me, it's really an incredible thing that it's happened in my lifetime.
It is the final piece of the standard model of particle physics, a framework that describes the behavior of all known particles and forces except gravity. It is a quantum field throughout the entire universe through which everything else interacts. This field is crucial because it gives mass to elementary particles. Without it, particles like electrons and quarks would remain massless, preventing the formation of atoms, molecules, and ultimately the structure of the universe as we know it. The Higgs field is believed to have switched on just a fraction of a second after the Big Bang. To be precise, 10 to the negative 12 seconds, or 1/1,000,000,000th of a second after the universe began. This moment is known as the electroweak symmetry breaking phase. During the very early universe, the Higgs field was in a high energy state where all particles were massless, and the electromagnetic and weak nuclear forces were unified as a single force called the electroweak force. As the universe cooled and expanded, the Higgs field transitioned into its low energy state, becoming active. This transition broke the symmetry of the electroweak force, separating it into the distinct electromagnetic and weak nuclear forces we observe today. Simultaneously, particles interacting with the Higgs field gained mass, shaping the universe's structure. As you can imagine, there were several rival theories in those decades before the God particle was proven. And currently, zero-point energy is in this same space. It's technically more than just theoretical. By definition, fields that can enable other particles to gain mass, the fields themselves have energy. So the idea of zero point is that in any point in space-time, even if there are no particles, no mass, or heat of any kind, there is still energy at that point because the field goes through every point throughout all of existence. It follows from everything else we know in quantum physics, and there was even a well-documented experiment where two closely spaced metal plates in a vacuum experience an attractive force due to differences in zero-point energy between the space inside and outside the plates, dubbed the Casimir effect. Why it is often framed as theoretical is more for the fact that we currently have no way to harness it or turn it into a usable energy source. Theoretical calculations suggest that the energy density is immense, but extracting or converting it into work violates current understandings of thermodynamics. Even if zero-point energy could be tapped, it would likely require entirely new physics and technological breakthroughs far beyond what we could currently imagine. And in that way, it sounds very much like the Minovsky particles. And the jump we can see if something like that was achieved could be as dramatic as what we see in the Gundam universe, if not more insane, honestly. So I hope you see why I don't think Minovsky particles are just hand-wavy space magic for plot. I think like most things in Gundam, they're actually not that far off. Even the more heavily ridiculed Psycho frames I actually think are way more defensible than people think. In both, we just have people ironically hand-wavy, smug, and cynical saying, nah, it could never happen, because it goes against all our intuitions about the world. And I just think you could definitely say that for quantum physics too. And yet we use it every day in real-world tech in the very device you're listening to me on right now. If you made it this far, please hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss this series. Comment your thoughts and suggestions, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, as perhaps the greatest sci-fi writer of all time, Arthur C. Clarke said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that goes for your Minovsky space magic too. What's up, Meta Nerds? This breakdown will pull from every resource available, going back to the early 80s to fully understand the very first mobile suit in the Gundam universe, the MS-01 Crabman. Those Zaku we see in the first episode are already the MS-06 Zaku 2, so all I want to do is tell the quick summary and stats first, then jump right into the fascinating comic pages and schematic page, since I was able to have it translated from the original Japanese. The Principality of Zeon Ministry of Defense instructed various weapons manufacturers to develop new weaponry optimized for combat under the influence of Minovsky particles. I made a whole video on these M particles, in case you missed it, it's up in the card. Among those proposed systems, only Zeonic's Z1XA3 and MIP's MIPX1 met the required specifications. The humanoid ZI-XA3 was said to have amused Zabi so much he broke out into laughter. An early mobile suit's MS development was marked by uncertainty and trial and error, and this prototype was assigned a critical role, often cited in historical records as the first successful bipedal walking system. The MS Era book tells us this is a fusion of two groundbreaking concepts: the Space Pod, a free-flying mobile manipulator, and the AMBAC, Active Mass Balance Auto Control System. This innovation resulted in a towering 10-meter-tall humanoid machine. Though its development process was fraught with challenges, engineers struggled to fine-tune the auto balancer system to maintain stability and prevent the machine from toppling over. Ultimately, the Ministry of Defense selected it for further development as it showed superior performance compared to the MIPX1. By UC0073, the first official mobile suit from this prototype, designated the MS-01, was finally completed. And right away, the Ministry of Defense authorized the development of a combat variant, cleverly disguised as a next-generation space work machine to mask its true military purpose. And there are actually two height stats given, the very first prototype at 10 meters or 32 feet 10 inches, and the actual Crabman that goes into production is 13.5 meters or 44 feet 4 inches, which is 4.5 meters shorter than the RX-78-2 Gundam, or only 15% the height of White Base, which comes in at 93 meters or 305 feet, nearly half the height of an AT-AT. So since that's all the history, let's get into those actual translations. Right up top in the title, we get a new weapon that overturns conventional concepts, the completion of the mobile suit. The mobile suit, a revolutionary weapon developed by the Principality of Zeon, was created to gain superiority over the Earth Federation forces. The Principality of Zeon had already been developing mobile weapons designed for use in space, and through these efforts, they created a humanoid mobile weapon capable of both combat and various operations. This new weapon, called the Mobile Suit, was equipped with advanced maneuverability and could handle diverse battle scenarios. The Federation forces, which had relied heavily on conventional warfare tactics, were unprepared for the impact mobile suits would have on the battlefield. Among Zeon's early mobile suits, the MS-01 was an initial prototype that laid the foundation for later models. The development of mobile suits was further refined, leading to the production of the MS-05 Zaku 1 and its successor, the MS-06 Zaku 2. Which became the mainstay of Zeon's military forces. The MS-01 prototype lacked integrated weapon systems and was mainly used for testing maneuverability and operational mechanics. However, it was a crucial step in the evolution of mobile suits, leading to the formidable combat units that would later define the One-Year War. The development of mobile suits was a turning point in military history, proving that humanoid mecha could dominate warfare both in space and on land. Then at the bottom we get more info. Were the Principality's mobile suits originally intended for civilian use? There was a theory that mobile suits were initially conceived for civilian and industrial purposes before being weaponized. The early development of mobile suits included designs for labor and construction, suggesting that their military applications came later. However, the reality is that Zeon's mobile suit program was always focused on military supremacy, and any civilian application was secondary. And all these annotations around the schematic are head unit, The design of the head unit is relatively simple, featuring a rounded helmet-like structure. It lacks the mono-eye sensor that would later become characteristic of Zeon mobile suits like the Zaku series. The head houses sensors and communications equipment, though in a rudimentary form compared to later models. Torso and core systems. The chest section is highly mechanical in design. The cylindrical mechanisms visible in the torso likely function as part of the suit's cooling or power transfer systems. The upper back houses what appears to be an early backpack unit, possibly for propulsion or energy storage. Energy distribution system. Described as a power balance system, this system likely regulates the suit's internal power output to optimize movement and efficiency. Arms and shoulder assembly. The shoulders and arms have complex joint mechanisms, likely designed for enhanced range of motion. Actuators and pistons are visibly integrated, suggesting an emphasis on strength and mechanical assistance for arm movements. Arm structure suggests a humanoid articulation system, which was a novel concept at the time of mobile suit development. Backpack and propulsion systems. The backpack unit features multiple cylindrical components, possibly early prototypes of later thruster systems. Flexible tubing and mechanical linkages indicate an advanced internal system for power regulation. Some sections reference the integration of an energy supply system, possibly an early version of what would later become Minovsky reactors. Legs and lower body. The leg structure is heavily reinforced, suggesting a focus on stability and weight support. Multiple mechanical joints provide flexibility, ensuring a humanoid range of motion. The feet are large and heavily plated, likely to support balance and weight distribution. The ankle structure appears complex, likely compensating for movement stability. Docking and maintenance features. The annotations describe easy-to-maintain mechanical sections, implying a modular design. Certain sections mention the importance of quick repairs and adaptability, hinting at how the mobile suits were meant to be field serviceable. And then we get a few pages from the manga. In the Japanese, reading from right to left, we're starting at the top right panel. The beginning of it all. The existence of a new particle discovered by Dr. T.Y. Minovsky. In response to visible range warfare, the need for developing new weapons arose, influencing future military technology. The presence of particles capable of rendering radar and precision-guided weapons ineffective in space combat, certain mobile suits seem unrealistic in their design, yet they represent the height of Zeon's rapid technological development. The Zeonic company proposed a humanoid prototype equipped with manipulators and legs. However, by enabling rapid limb movement, a reaction-based control system called AMBAC, Active Mass Balance Autocontrol, was developed. The motion that does not require propellant demonstrated superior efficiency compared to conventional space vehicles, which relied solely on thrusters. The system was further developed by MIP Company. A machine that exhibited excellent overall performance was designated the model number MS-01. Development continued with the goal of actual combat deployment. Its adaptability led to the rise of a versatile work machine, the mobile suit. This development process was both scattered and unpredictable, yet it became a key factor in Zeon's accelerated military advancements. Now that's all the info I can find on this thing, the crab man that gave us mobile suits. And for the next videos in this series, getting details on the MS-02 and 3 are a bit harder. If you guys have any suggestions, please comment down below where I should be looking or how I could find more on this. But I have found some stuff. And there is the origin timeline that actually has more details to work with from this line. So I'll be making another series called the Other First Mobile Suit. But really, any thoughts and suggestions, please comment them down below. And please hit that like button. It really is the best way to help me out. Subscribe so you don't miss anything, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, there's a very fine line between machine and war machine. What's up, Meta Nerds? In the last video, we saw how the Principality of Zeon was choosing between the MS-01 and the MIP X1, deciding which of these creations would become the future of warfare. And though the X1 would not become the focus of their military, it would still serve a vital role and live on to inspire the MA-05. So with this breakdown, I think we should just start with the Japanese source material. I've had it translated so we can read right through it. Technology of the Universal Century, the birth of the mobile suit. One of the most significant technological innovations in Universal Century history was the development of the mobile suit. The rise of MS technology was closely tied to advancement of AMBAC, Active Mass Balance Auto-Control movement systems, which enabled space-based humanoid machines to function effectively without excessive thruster use. Before the adoption of mobile suits, space combat relied primarily on battleships and fighter craft, which had limited maneuverability and relied heavily on thruster propulsion. However, research into AMBAC demonstrated that limbs and movable structures could be used for precise attitude adjustments, significantly reducing fuel consumption. Let me pull out of the translation a second. If you've never heard it used before, it's going to sound odd. The word is attitude. It's pronounced just like a person having an attitude, like how they're behaving or their emotion. But in this context, it's used for vehicle movement, especially aircraft, spacecraft, and ships, and refers to the orientation of the vehicle in three-dimensional space. Attitude is typically described using 3 angles that define rotation and 3 perpendicular axes, including the pitch, yaw, and roll. And so the AMBAC is a revolutionary form of an RCS, a reaction control system, or a gyroscope. It's a significantly more effective and fuel-efficient way to change direction, your attitude in space. So let's jump back into the translation. The initial trials of the mobile weapon technology were conducted by MIP Corporation, which developed a unit that prioritized maneuverability exceeding that of contemporary battleships. However, this design suffered from extreme propellant consumption, limiting its maximum combat time to less than 10 minutes. Despite this flaw, it was equipped with a dummy mega-particle cannon for testing purposes. Conversely, Zeonic Corporation pursued a different approach, incorporating the AMBAC system into its mobile weapon prototype. This system utilized movable limbs to enable posture control via reactive forces, allowing attitude adjustments without thrusters. This 180-degree attitude control capability was comparable to the maneuverability of contemporary battleships. These advancements eventually led to the realization that a humanoid design was the most effective form for space combat. With the refinement of mobile suits, the battlefield was revolutionized, giving rise to the mobile suit era of warfare. AMBAC, Movement and Attitude Control. The AMBAC, Active Mass Balance Auto Control System, is a fundamental technology for mobile suits, allowing them to maneuver in space by shifting their limb mass without relying on thrusters. Traditional spacecraft require constant thruster adjustments for attitude control. In contrast, AMBAC-based systems use a mobile suit's arms and legs to adjust its center of mass, enabling movement through reaction forces. This approach greatly reduces fuel consumption and allows greater mobility in zero-gravity environments. The diagrams illustrate the differences between conventional maneuvering methods and AMBAC-based movement. In traditional systems, thrusters must constantly compensate for changes in direction. With the AMBAC-equipped mobile suit, it moves its limbs to shift balance and control orientation naturally, making it far more effective in space combat. As a result, mobile suits quickly outperform traditional fighters and battleships in close combat, leading to their dominance in the universal century. And we have this great manga page that is discussing the industrial and technological advancements of the universal century, especially the rise of mobile suits in space-based corporations, and it also shows the MIP prototype. It's really big, isn't it? Well, it's been around since the opening of Side 3, so it's an old establishment. Originally, space development was handled by government-run enterprises, but after our nation transitioned to a principality system, privatization took place. By utilizing mega-particle cannon technology, companies grew significantly, expanding into areas such as spacecraft construction, warship development, and small asteroid mining. At the same time, while slowly expanding, other corporations began entering the field as well. And then, following the growth of Junk Corporation in the work robot sector, more advancements were made. Yeah. By now, 0079, this design would become the MA-05. So let's go straight into the translation this time and get more details. MA-05 Bigro. The Principality of Zeon developed this heavy assault mobile armor, specializing in anti-ship attacks with a focus on one-shot kills. Equipped with large thrusters that generate immense power, it boasts exceptionally high mobility. It features giant claws and is armed with mega-particle cannons, allowing it to attack with speeds that mobile suits cannot match. These capabilities made it highly effective, leading to its mass production in the latter half of the One-Year War, with some units being deployed in the Battle of AMBAC. Pilot Glennis Escott. A rare ace pilot who was able to fully utilize the Bigro's capabilities, Glennis Escott was one of the few to demonstrate its true potential. He appeared in the novel Mobile Suit Gundam High Streamer. The Bigro in this illustration is modeled after his unit. Weapons and capabilities. The Bigro's primary weapons include its large claws and its powerful, hull-mounted mega-particle cannon. Due to its massive size, the Bigro can carry large-caliber energy weapons, capable of annihilating enemy warships in a single strike. And as for its history, before the One-Year War, we learned that the MIP X1 mobile armor was rejected in favor of Zeonix Company's mobile suit technology. But after the war began, Zeon reassessed the MIP X1, modifying it into the first dedicated space combat mobile armor, the MA-05 Bigro. Equipped with a high-output fusion reactor and twin thermonuclear rocket engines, the Bigro boasted immense thrust, Its compact body and AMBAC system grant it exceptional agility, enabling it to perform a full 180-degree turn in just 1.3 seconds. Designed for high-speed hit-and-run tactics, the Bigro's extreme maneuverability makes it difficult for ordinary pilots to endure the high G forces.
What? Is my Bigro too fast for you?
It's so fast and powerful.
It is equipped with a Minovsky particle dispersal system, which disrupts enemy sensors and is armed with a pair of large claw arms, a nose-mounted megaparticle cannon, and a pair of 4-tube missile launchers. Later variants were upgraded with additional Gatling cannons for increased firepower. And due to its late introduction into the war, production was limited, as the very expensive price tag on the Bigro restricted mass deployment. But several units were used as test platforms for next-generation mobile armors, paving the way for future advancements in Zeon's mobile weapon technology. The MA-05 Bigro stands at an overall height of 23.6 meters and has a total length of 45.5 meters, which is about 5.6 meters taller than the RX-78-2 Gundam, and an Amuro Ray taller than an AT-AT. Its empty weight is 125.5 metric tons, while its maximum weight reaches 229.8 metric tons, showing just how heavy all those missiles and Gatling ammo can be. The mobile armor is powered with a Minovsky ultra-compact fusion reactor, delivering an impressive power output of 17,800 kilowatts, and has a sensor range of 111,000 meters or 69 miles, enabling its long-range target detection. It is designed for a single pilot, housed in a cockpit within the main body. And for protection, it's armored with super hard steel alloy, ensuring durability in combat. While it has a great top speed and agility, a maximum acceleration of 0.59 G via its propulsion system consisting of 2 thermonuclear rocket engines. And has additional rocket thrusters generating a total output of 136 and 100 kilograms, ensuring that it could keep up with those machines that were chosen over them, their rival mobile suits of Zeon and the later mobile suits of the Federation. One MA-05 Bigro was piloted by Tokwan, aboard Shah Aznabal's Zanzibar, where it engaged the SCV-70 White Base. And later during the Battle of Aboaku, approximately 3 teams of Bigro units were reportedly deployed. In total, around 14 early model Bigros were produced, though the exact number of later models remains unknown. In UC-83, a Bigro was piloted by EFF Captain Ewan Badger. A Bigro was piloted by EFF Captain Ewan Batter in combat against the SEMA fleet. This unit had been requisitioned for testing after the 1-year war and was later modified for battle. To distinguish it from enemy forces, the EFSF repainted it white and marked it with the EFSF logo, ensuring it would not be mistaken for the Della's fleet. Now there were 5 variants of the Big Claw, but the pincer arms is about all they have in common, varying dramatically from just overall looks, capabilities, and some being 4 times the size of others. So if you guys would be interested in a video breaking down all those variants, drop a comment, and I'll see if there's enough interest in that, as they do look pretty cool, but they're just so different that I didn't think they fit in this video. Either way, we'll be getting to the rest of the MS line soon. So please hit that like button, it really is the best way to help me out. Subscribe so you don't miss anything, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, space combat requires that the pilot and the ship are in constant control of their attitude.
About too soon, Captain. Something big. Very big.
Testing will commence in 60 seconds. All personnel to your stations. Standing by.
Warrant Officer Ortega, are you ready to proceed?
I am ready whenever you guys are. Let's do this.
What's up, Meta Nerds? We're barely into these Gundam breakdowns, and I'm trying to make sure you get a nice progression to the very first mobile suit prototypes, up through to things like the Zaku and later more famous suits. And this is on what I'm calling the other MS-01, with all these details coming from the origin. From what I understand, this is still within the Universal Century timeline, like the original 1979 show. But all this lore is coming from these fact sheets which I had translated. And if you want to make sure I keep doing this series, please hit that like button. It really is the best way to promote videos, and it shows me that you want to see more. But let's jump into it. Here we get Mobile Worker MW01 type, the early model. The Principality of Zeon developed this machine as an experimental prototype for a mobile work unit, designed in preparation for a war of independence. While it is equipped with a mono-eye, its structure differs greatly from that of a mobile suit. The right arm features a large claw, while the left arm is fitted with a shield for defensive purposes. The cockpit is located in the chest, while the name Mobile Worker reflects its intended role as a work machine, and it was developed as part of the foundation for later mobile suit development. These labels that we see around it say shield, shield-equipped state, back of the shield, head unit, cockpit, cockpit seat. And we get dimensions of a height of 16.1 meters, width at 13.88 meters, and a length or depth of 14.6 meters, which is only about 1.4 meters shorter than the Zaku 2. In this image, we get even more detail. The Principality of Zeon's autonomous government, preparing for an independent war against the Earth Federation, developed this unit as an experimental prototype for human-piloted heavy machinery. At this stage, it was categorized as a mobile worker, intended as an industrial machine rather than a military unit. However, it was developed with the potential for future combat applications in mind. Development of this unit was part of a broader evolutionary process, with multiple prototype machines tested before reaching the final mobile suit design. The MW-0101 type features a mono-eye sensor in its head unit and an armored cockpit positioned at the front. Its right arm is equipped with a large claw for heavy-duty work, while the left arm carries a large shield. These legs are sturdy to support its heavy structure, and additional thrusters and equipment can be mounted for operational flexibility. This section is giving you more details on these specific parts, but the next sheet I want to look at actually goes into even more detail. The last thing to mention on here is, quote, the development of this mobile worker series played a significant role in the early history of Zeon's mobile suit technology. The RTX-65 gun tank, developed around the same time, shared a similar role in establishing the foundation for later combat-ready mobile suits. And this is the sheet where we get details on the specific systems. Head unit mono-eye. The mono-eye camera housed in the head unit can rotate along a track. This design is a precursor to later mobile suits, which also feature a mono-eye system. The ability to move and track objects enhances visibility and targeting. Mono-eye detail. A breakdown of the optical system and internal mechanisms of the mono-eye. The lens structure and movement allows for precise control and surveillance. Manipulator. Unlike traditional construction equipment, this design features a more human-like hand with articulated fingers. This allows for greater dexterity and the ability to handle complex tasks more efficiently. The mechanical grip enhances control and precision. Foot detail. The bottom of the feet is designed for stability on various terrains. Structural reinforcements allow the unit to carry heavy loads while maintaining balance. Back view with cables. Various cables and power conduits connect to different parts of the mobile worker. These cables supply energy to different components, ensuring smooth operation. The power system is a major factor in developing later mobile suits, where internalized power units become more common. A large shield is attached to the left arm, providing for defense. This enhances durability, making it more resistant to environmental hazards and potential combat situations. The shield was originally intended for industrial purposes, but later influenced mobile suit combat shield designs. And then we get a specific breakdown of what is called the final version. This is not an MS-02 or some variant. It's just like a mass-produced model that becomes the 01. It's just the final version of this mass-produced model of the 01. It's the unit that most people would actually encounter. Final model, space specification. Although the final model never became a fully completed system, it was further refined based on operational feedback from previous mobile worker units. The space use specification was designed with the Space Star asteroid mining colony in mind. The unit was adapted for zero-gravity operations, equipped with additional thrusters and mobility enhancements. This variant was later used for asteroid mining and labor operations, particularly in areas where traditional human-piloted machinery struggled to function. Final model. As the last evolution of the mobile worker MW-01, this model integrated various improvements based on feedback from previous units. The shoulders and arms were heavily reinforced to handle greater workloads, and the legs were further stabilized for better performance in industrial tasks. One significant change was the addition of a backpack unit that housed an improved thruster system. This allowed for greater maneuverability and enhanced balance during operation. The cockpit design was further refined to provide better protection and ease of use for the pilot. This finalized version represents the culmination of Zeon's mobile worker technology, directly influencing the later development of mobile suits, such as the Zaku series. There are a few more fact sheets I found, but to be honest, it would just be repeating the stuff I've already said. They are pretty cool to look at, so I'll leave them up on screen here. And if you are liking this series, I hope you're literally liking by hitting the like button. It's the best way to help me out and keep this series going, because I already have the script written for the rare MS-02 through to the MS-05 series. So altogether, we'll have a great series leading up to the iconic MS-06 Zaku 2. Subscribe so you don't miss anything, check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, when you see labor mechs wielding shields, it won't be long before they're wielding weapons.
This advancement will change the face of warfare.
But even more significant than that, it will take the focus of combat away from battleships and precision-guided weapons and give warfare starring role to a new player.
What's up, Meta Nerds? This video will take us from the MS-02 and 3, which might just be the most obscure mobile suits out there. Finding any data on them at all was incredibly difficult. If you want to keep this series going, please hit that like button, it really does help. But let's get into it with this sheet. And at the end, we'll get into the YMS-03 Waff, since that directly leads into the MS-04, and the 4 and 5 do have enough info to get their own video, which will be coming soon. So I've had this translated and it reads, MS-01 original version, pilot Zeon military general use, the first prototype mobile suit derived from the Mobile Worker series. Developed as part of early MS research, it was used mainly for testing and technological development. The experience gained from this unit led to the refinement of later mobile suits. MS-02 origin version, pilot Zeon military general use. A prototype mobile suit developed by utilizing the Mobile Worker system. It incorporated an operational feedback system, called an alpha system, to enhance pilot control and combat efficiency. The unit's structural elements were carried over into the MS-03 series, and it also shows the MS-04 prototype Zaku, origin version, pilot Zeon military / Ramba Rawl. The first true combat mobile suit evolving from the MS-03. A predecessor to the Zaku series, it laid the foundation for Zeon's future mass-produced MS units. Armament tests included machine guns and cannons, with emphasis on enhanced mobility. This manga page seems to be about the 02 since it's commenting on improvements from a previous mobile suit. Dazzle? Well, the range of motion for the arms and legs has improved significantly. Oh, and after that. What's being referenced here to be after that could actually be the YMS-03 Waff. Maybe not technically starting with the MS, but it directly leads to the MS-04 Bugu, and is the first one that is military capable, what we might think of as a proper, modern mobile suit in the way you think of a war mech. One of the biggest problems with the Mobile Worker MW-01 model was the oversized generator, which had to be mounted externally like a giant backpack. Zabi saw this as a joke. He even considered scrapping the entire MS project, thinking the final type looked ridiculous hauling around an exposed engine.
What kind of weapon exposes its engine by strapping it on its back?
The Waff was a major breakthrough. Thanks to Professor Trenov Y. Minovsky, a new fusion reactor was designed, smaller and compact enough to fit into the suit's frame. Minovsky also introduced the fluid pulse system, which used Minovsky particles to improve energy efficiency and maneuverability, making mobile suits more effective in space combat.
These are the schematics of my latest fusion reactor. As you can see, it is a quantum leap smaller than existing models, and there is no impact on its output. And this right here is the fluid pulse system, which makes use of Minovsky particles. By using this method, we can smooth out the drive system and make active attitude control possible.
During tests in areas filled with Minovsky particles, the Waff showed performance levels that suggested it could outperform warships and guided missiles in space combat. Like the Mobile Worker Model 01 late type, the Waff's forearms could be swapped out for different attachments. In UC 0074, Minovsky presented a video simulation of the Waff to Zabi, hoping to convince him that a Minovsky fusion-powered mobile suit was viable. He even promised Girin that a working model would be ready within the year. And true to his word, the Waff was quickly completed. However, after its completion, development had already shifted toward a more combat-ready successor. The Waff never entered formal production, as it was quickly phased out in favor of the newer designs. It would stand 17.34 meters or 56 feet 11 inches, more than a 5-story building, or less than a meter shorter than the RX-78-2 Gundam. The Waff was not only a technological leap in mobile suit development, but it also introduced new weapon concepts, like the Heat Hawk, a devastating melee weapon capable of slicing through armor in most vehicles. The working principle behind the Heat Hawk appears to be induction heating, where an electromagnetic field passes through the blade, heating it to extreme temperatures. Powered by the mobile suit's reactor, the electromagnetic current rapidly heats the blade, making it an effective anti-armor weapon. While traditional blades might be made of hardened steel, which melts around 2000 Kelvin, a more advanced material, like the tantalum hafnium carbide, which has the highest known upper use temperature of 4050 Kelvin, could theoretically be used for the Heat Hawk's blade, ensuring durability and resistance to extreme heat in combat. It also had a prototype bazooka, and a shield that can stop most conventional weaponry. Now this sheet helps us understand the out-of-universe reasons for why info on the MS-02 was so hard to find. The Zaku that vanished like a phantom on paper. This mobile suit design was planned for the Origin, but it never appeared in the final version. Although the Zaku name was attached to this concept, it was ultimately abandoned before its development was finalized. This title reads, with exclamation point and question mark, was the MS project almost cancelled? MS-02. The MS project is cancelled warning was issued, nearly stopping development. However, Zeon researchers were determined to continue their research, ensuring that mobile suits would eventually become a reality. The MS-02 prototype represents an early mobile suit concept, which was later revised into the final Zaku design. Yoshikazu Yasuhiko check. Originally, this design was meant to be a heavy industry machine for work use. The concept was adjusted multiple times, making it closer to a combat mobile suit. One major challenge was whether this design should be used as a precursor to later MS models, or remain in the original function as a work machine. In continuing with this, it just shows how they make that jump to the 04. Origin MS concept development, pages 14 to 15, introduced the first original mobile suit design appearing in the Origin. The editorial team referred to it as Early Zaku, and it was fully sketched out by Yoshikazu Yasuhiko. Initially, 3 different units were mentioned, but only one was officially recognized in the storyline. First generation ZIXA2, the initial concept model laying the foundation for early MS development. Second generation, the ZIXA3, also known as the MS-01, the semi-production test model refining the basic humanoid structure. And so it just skips 2 and 3. The next thing it says is third generation MS-04, further refined to MS-04 specifications, later transitioning into early combat capable units. During the storyboarding phase, there was consideration of additional prototypes, but not all were included in the final storyline. So most have never seen the MS-2 and 3. When you include the YMS-03 Waff, I hope you now better understand the progression from the 1 all the way to the 4, and be sure to look out for the videos breaking down the 4 and 5 very soon. Please hit that like button, it really is the best way to help me out. Subscribe so you don't miss anything, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, the 2 and 3 are no Zaku. What's up, Meta Nerds? In this series, we'll be working through the development of mobile suits, and now we are getting into the purpose-made military units that come out of the guise of these mechs just being for construction equipment. And to do this, I'll be pulling from a bunch of fact sheets that I have had translated, and I've also done my best to make sure this isn't repetitive, as sometimes the info is the same on multiple sheets. So let's get into it. The Zeonic company challenged itself to update its independently developed machines, which created a more refined mobile suit. The MS-04 Bugu was a war-made prototype developed based on that approach. Due to extreme imbalance in its cooling system, the incorporation of a liquid balance system led to the adoption of a movable frame, ultimately improving the machine's performance. Its high gravity acceleration and close combat capabilities were significantly advanced, fostering high mobility characteristics as well. Although it was not adapted as a mass production model due to costs and consistency concerns, it was well received as a test unit, though pilot evaluations were extremely polarized. MS-04 Bugu Mechanical Design. The unit was under the supervision of Dr. Torbel Murasami, leading further refinement and development. The mono-eye sensor system allows for horizontal movement along the track built into the head unit. This structure was later revised, incorporating an extended range of motion to improve targeting capability. This resulted in an increased sensor range, though the head unit size was slightly reduced. The Rambaral custom unit was a specialized version of the Bugu, featuring adjustments in armor materials and color schemes. The main sensor was modified to include additional reinforcement plating, making it more durable. The R31 markings indicate its deployment status in the 10th Mobile Suit Battalion, which Rambaral was affiliated with. To reinforce sensory backup functions, additional armor plating was added, and the visor area was adjusted, giving the Bugu a distinctive head silhouette. The shield is designed with an upper curved structure for deflection. It was specifically designed for mobile suits, with a structure that allows it to be mounted on the arm. The MS-06 Zaku series also featured a similar shield, but the Bugu's shield is designed with enhanced durability and additional protective reinforcements. The Bugu's machine gun was developed as an early prototype of the standard Zaku machine gun. It featured a drum magazine, allowing high-capacity rapid-fire capabilities, and a rifle-type version was also tested, with modifications including an adjustable stock and barrel extensions. The cockpit hatch is designed to open from the bottom upward, providing a wide entry space, and the step on the back of the hatch allows for easy access when entering. A dedicated crane system was installed on the side to assist with pilot entry and exit, and this crane was based on military vehicle lifting systems, allowing for efficient pilot retrieval in emergency situations. The variations for the Bugu include an orange and tan version, as well as the blue Rambaral version. Both versions feature unique unit markings. Since mobile suits were mass-produced within the Zeonic company, the cockpit layout was standardized to ensure compatibility across different models. This cockpit features a central control system with various informational displays and targeting monitors positioned in front of the pilot. The foot pedals control thrust and mobility, while manual control sticks on both sides operate arm movements and the weaponry. Switches and communication panels are installed within easy reach, allowing pilots to focus on combat without excessive movement. And the cockpit interior includes emergency escape mechanisms, ensuring quick ejection in the event of catastrophic damage. The left and right control sticks were designed for precision movement, and each side has multiple switches allowing for rapid maneuvering and weapon selection. The foot pedal system is designed to control the thrust and walking functions of the mobile suit, and it integrates seamlessly with the pilot's seat, enabling fluid motion adjustments during combat. Now those are all from Origin, but I also want to look at these original ones with this page showing the early development. This reads, quote, "Rather than lightweight parts, steel-based materials are primarily used. In Earth environments or space colonies, reducing self-weight in 1G conditions is expected to be an important challenge. Before the introduction of small, high-output nuclear fusion reactors in the early development stages, the problem of insufficient engine output due to heavier armor had already become an issue. Therefore, the basic structure adopted the monocoque method, which supports loads with external armor. Compared to complex internal frames, this structure had the advantage of allowing weight reduction, running under gravity, self-weight loads, and intense G-forces during space combat. These factors influenced the optimization of the design to ensure strength and durability. For machine control, improvements in the OS and pilot interface efficiency were being refined simultaneously. The monocoque method mentioned there is a structural design approach where the external shell or skin of a structure is bearing all the load, rather than the internal framework. The term monocoque comes from the French words mono and coque, meaning single shell. So in the context of Mobile Suit Gundam, the monocoque methods means the external armor of the mobile suit is load-bearing, rather than using the internal skeleton or frame, and that makes it lighter weight compared to a full internal frame, and increased structural efficiency by making the outer armor part of the support system. But perhaps most importantly is the simplified construction, since fewer internal reinforcement structures are needed. This method was widely used in aerospace, automotive, and naval engineering, seen in commercial aircraft, Formula 1 race cars where carbon fiber and monocoque chassis provide strength and safety, and even things from rockets, satellites, and bikes. In the later Gundam series, mobile suits shifted to a movable internal frame structure, like in the Zeta Gundam era, which does allow for more flexibility in modular armor attachments. This image is titled Prototype Zaku. The MS-03 Prototype Zaku No. 3 had increased armor strength, which led to increased weight and poor mobility. To address the resulting power deficiency and reduce maneuverability, the MS-04 was developed. By applying Minovsky physics, a newly developed high-output generator was installed. This equipment provided more than twice the operating power of the MS-03, while also reinforcing the armor. The MS-04 Bugu stands at a height of 17.5 meters, being the same size as the standard Zaku 2 and slightly shorter than the classic RX-78-2 Gundam, which is at 18 meters, and more advanced suits are noticeably taller, with Zeta at 19.8 meters, New Gundam at 23, though some were smaller like Wing Gundam at 16.7 meters. It has a maximum weight of 72.5 metric tons and an empty weight of 57.4 metric tons, while being powered by a ZAS X7 power plant, generating a maximum acceleration of 0.65 G, while the rocket thrusters themselves are producing 47,000 kilograms of thrust, with an output of 953 kilowatts. Its sensor range can scan up to 2,950 meters, while that super hard steel alloy armor provides durability and protection in combat. And so let's summarize, touching on its armament and giving its complete history. After developing the YMS-03 Waff, Zeonic Inc. refined its design into the MS-04 Bugu, improving its mobility and performance. To make it more adaptable for close combat, the upper attachment was removed, and power pipes were placed externally to enhance energy transmission to the fluid pulse system, boosting joint drive performance. This design gave the Bugu greater mobility and quicker burst of acceleration, bringing it closer to being a perfected mobile suit. The backpack is equipped with 2 main thrusters, 4 power pipes connected to the chest and stomach, supplying extra energy for mobility. The machine gun was a mobile suit sidearm developed by Yashima Heavy Industry, and it fired real bullets and was even used by some Earth Federation mobile suits. The Heat Hawk is a hatchet-style melee weapon designed for close combat, and the blade is heated up to a red-hot glow, making it capable of melting enemy armor. This weapon was also standard on the MS-05 Zaku 1 and other Zeon suits. The shield mounted on the upper arm provided some defense against machine gun fire, but its bulletproof strength wasn't as high as the L-shaped shield of the MS-06 Zaku 2. But the MS-04 was too expensive to produce, with manufacturing and operational challenges. Zeon needed a mobile suit that was easy to mass produce and could maintain steady logistics in wartime operations. Since the 04 failed to meet these requirements, it's why it is a crucial step in the progress of mobile suits, but still obscure. Though there was this variant seen in Ramba Rawl's unit. Since the Bugu had better overall performance than the mass-produced Zaku 1, a unit was assigned to Ramba Rawl, who served as a test pilot during its development. His blue-colored Bugu took part in the Battle of Mare Smithy, on the lunar surface, alongside Gaia, Mash, Ortega, and Char. Rambo's suit was also fitted with a blade antenna marking him as a commander. In May of UC 0077, Sasha Kitts was invited to Dark Colony, where mobile suit development was taking place. Testing was conducted under Special Operations Lieutenant Kukuru's Don on June 23rd during planned verification tests of the MS-04 Bugu and YMS-03 Waff. Captain Yat Delma informed Don that one of his pilots, Kalden, was an industrial spy and gave the order to do nothing, halting the tests. Even though the Bugu wasn't mass-produced, it earned high praise from some pilots. Captain Ramba Rawl chose to pilot a blue MS-04 Bugu rather than the newly mass-produced MS-05 Zaku 1 during his mission to prevent Dr. Minovsky's defection. On the dark side of the moon, Ramba Rawl and the Black Tri-Stars set out to reach the edge of Mare Smithy within 12 hours. Their target was a buggy, codenamed Rabbit, which Zeon forces were hunting. Rawl spotted the buggy and pushed the Bugu's main thrusters to full throttle, beginning what would be called the Lunar Rabbit Hunt. As the chase intensified, Rawl called out to Minovsky, urging him to return. Meanwhile, Erdish's gun cannon and gun cannons VB-102 through VB-107 all opened fire on the Bugu and the Black Tri-Stars, but Rawl's 04 dodged through the explosions unscathed. In response, the Bugu's main guns blasted through Erdish's gun cannon's chest, followed by a devastating kick that knocked it over. Later, Rawl turned to see Gaia's Zaku 1 pursuing an armless gun cannon VB-103. The MS-04 Bugu's performance in battle proved the effectiveness of Zeon's mobile suit concept, demonstrating its power despite never being mass-produced and eventually forgotten when the Zaku 2 would take over. I hope you enjoyed learning about this crucial step in the MS advancement. Please hit that like button, it really is the best way to help me out. Subscribe so you don't miss anything, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, even machines are the product of evolution. What's up, Meta Nerds? We're continuing the mobile suit series with our first Zaku, the MS-05 Zaku 1, looking at the early type first, and then we get some great scenes of it being used via Requiem for Vengeance. The Zaku 1 was the first ever nuclear-powered mobile suit to be combat-ready in the Universal Century timeline. It evolved from the MS-04 prototype Zaku and introduced several technologies that would later become standard for all mobile suits. Its power came from a thermonuclear reactor developed by the ZAS company, which provided effectively unlimited power supply. In space, the reactor was cooled by stored liquid hydrogen, while on Earth it used an air-cooled system. It also featured a mono-eye camera system mounted in its head, which worked alongside multiple cameras placed around its body. This setup gave the pilot excellent visibility from the enclosed cockpit. It also had laser sensors, infrared sensors, and a powerful computer to assist with operations. While standing at 17.5 meters or 57 feet, which is the same for other Zaku, and just half a meter shorter than the Gundam. One of the advantages of these humanoid mecha is that they can pick up and use different weapons just as easily as a soldier could, and it has a really impressive range to choose from. With its armament including the ZMP-47D 105mm machine gun, which was the first standard-issue machine gun for Zaku models, featuring a 100-round drum magazine mounted vertically on the right side. The initial type bazooka was an early bazooka design that used block ammo cartridges and had a single exhaust port. The 280mm Zaku bazooka is categorized as a large caliber firearm primarily used for anti-ship combat and hit-and-run attacks. It could also be used against enemy mobile suits, though hitting fast-moving targets was a challenge. The Heat Hawk was a tomahawk-like melee weapon with a superheated blade that was hot enough to melt through mobile suits and warship armor. The shotgun we see it using is a pump action and similar to the one used by MS-18E Kampfer. And there is the double bazooka, which they just put two 280mm Zaku bazookas into a single, more powerful weapon. It was first developed in December UC-0074 under the designation YMS-05 as part of Zeon's Suit project. It competed against the EMS-04 Zuda for a production contract and Zeonic's YMS-051, leading to the adoption of Zeonic's first mass-produced mobile suit in July of UC-0075. The first production model, the A-Type, saw a limited run of 27 units, primarily used for pilot training and combat research under Colonel Kaisilia Zabi's training mobile battalion. Future aces like the Black Tri-Stars also trained with these units, and after gathering combat data, the design was refined into the MS-05B Zaku 1, which would enter mass production the next year in 0076. Production ended in 0077 as the MS-06 Zaku 2 replaced it. While no longer in large-scale production, the Zaku 1 remained available, often assigned to pilots who specifically requested one, or to new squadrons lacking the latest gear. Many were also given to Midnight Fenrir Corps teams. The Zaku 1's success led the Zeon Navy to build Masai-class warships purposely designed to carry mobile suits into battle. But by the time the one-year war started, the Zaku 1 was already outdated, and mainly relegated to support roles such as supply and construction work. Despite this, some units did see action, especially during the One-Week War, where they were used as colony gassers. As Zeon's forces weakened toward the end of the war, older Zaku 1 units were pressed back into frontline combat, and it is here that we see them deployed on Earth in Episode 6 of RFE. On March 1st, UC-0079, Zeon's Earth Attack Force launched its first landing operation, focusing on Central Asia and Eastern Europe. By March 4th, the 1st Terrestrial Mobile Division had taken control of Odessa, and the Resource Extraction Division of Zeon's Assault Mobile Force, led by Major Makuve, took charge of the area. Under Makuve's command, Odessa became a major mining hub for Zeon, a nation which had very limited resources. The extracted materials were shipped into space, and Makuve confidently claimed, quote, "Zeon can fight for another 10 years. On November 7th, the Earth Federation Forces, or EFF, launched Operation Odessa, turning the region into one of the fiercest battlegrounds of the one-year war. Where we pick up, we see a Zeon convoy moving through a war-torn area. This convoy consists of a PVN 44-1 Weasel, 2 Zeon Jeeps, 3 Zebus, and a Samson trailer carrying Araya's Zaku 2. Ahead of them, a heavy lift vehicle, or HLV, launches from a river port, and as the convoy moves through a town, it suddenly comes under attack. A Federation M61A5 MBT opens fire, destroying the Weasel. The convoy is forced to change course as a second tank appears, and before it can fire, 2 Magella attack tanks come out. The convoy is hit again, another Federation tank fires at them, and things get worse when an RGM-79 GM, armed with a 180mm cannon, takes aim. Just before it fires, an MS-07B3 Goof Custom from the Midnight Squadron swoops in, disabling and destroying the GM. Another Goof follows, taking out 2 more Federation M61A5s. First Lieutenant Loft of the Midnighters orders the convoy to reroute to the HLVs at the port of Odessa, but Major Rana insists that they're supposed to head for the spaceport. The Midnighters tell him that the spaceport has already fallen. The EFF have overrun it, and its HLVs have either been grounded or destroyed. With no other choice, the convoy heads toward the port. Runnet requests the Midnighters to escort the convoy, but they refuse. They need to hunt down enemy tanks to protect the HLVs from being targeted. At this moment, Aria volunteers to help defend the HLVs, and Runnet questions her. Alfie reminds her about her son, urging her to reconsider. Oni objects, and Aria has sprained her wrist, has a head wound, and possibly a concussion. She thanks Oni for patching her up and thanks everyone else for saving her life. And she hands her watch to Alfie, asking him to give it to her son, and then boards the Samson to get into her Zaku. At the port of Odessa, 6 HLVs are on floating launch pads preparing for takeoff, and suddenly a battery of 12 assault gun tanks moves within range and begins bombarding the launch site. Aria, along with 4 Midnighters and Goofs, and a MS-05A Zaku 1 all rush into battle. They wipe out the gun tank battery and its supporting forces, securing a clear launch path. The Zeon troops quickly board HLV-8s preparing for evacuation, while Oni decides to stay behind and work for the UMRC. As HLV-7 clears the atmosphere, the Gundam appears. It fires its beam weapon, instantly killing Anessa of the Midnighters. By November 10th, Operation Odessa ends with a Federation victory. The surviving Zeon forces retreat into space or scatter to other locations on Earth, and with Odessa lost, the one-year war's main battlefield shifts to space. And this battle was not the last we would see of the Zaku 1s. Even decades later, some were still in use. By UC-0096, Zeon remnants continued deploying these old machines, proving that even an outdated mobile suit could still find place on the battlefield. Thanks for watching, please hit that like button, I really do need your help. Subscribe so you don't miss this series, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, if you ever think you're not creative, there's a guy who got a military contract by strapping 2 bazookas together.
It's moving far too fast! Unable to engage it! All hands up!
From its Type 5 Heat Hawk to its monosensor eye and menacing demeanor, if you were to come face to face with this pink-eyed Cyclops, you knew you were in trouble. What's up, meta nerds? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the weapon that turned the tide of battle for the newly formed principle of Zeon, and the threat that kick-started the technological arms race and the development of a new kind of weapon, known as mobile suits. With the assistance of the Principality's own weapons developer Zeonic, the MS-06 Zaku 2 was released to great effectiveness during the Battle of Loom, in the year of the Universal Century 0079.
5 Magellan-class ships destroyed! Enemy is a single red mobile suit! Multiple high heat sources closing in from below! They're mobile suits, sir!
This project was the culmination of years of secret development with the aid of Dr. Trenov Minovsky to create the first mass-produced mobile suit, needed to meet the needs of Zeon's ever-growing military, and their fight for independence from the Earth Federation.
Upon its citizens residing in these sides,
military mumbo-jumbo.
Behave in a response.
The 6th iteration of Zeon's new mobile suit stood at a height of 17.5 meters, or just under 57.5 feet, making it over 9.5 Char Aznables tall, or taller than 2 adult orcas. At a width of 9.2 meters or 30 feet, the Zaku took up as much space as 2 of the Federation's Type 61 main battle tanks side by side, or about as wide as 2.5 Volkswagen Beetles. With a dry mass of 58.1 tons, an unencumbered MS-06C would weigh as much as 12 Zeon drop support craft, or 30 Rhinoceros. If we were attacked by a Zaku 2 here on Earth today, it would stand as tall as a 4-story building, weigh as much as 3 F-22 fighter jets, and take up as much room as 3 A-1 Abrams tanks side by side. This mech was launched during times of war and conflict and often symbolized the atrocities carried out by the Zeon loyalists over the years to come. Even when they were left abandoned on the battlefield, they stood as a moss-covered monument to what some were willing to do, all in the pursuit of freedom and power. The Zaku 2 was controlled by a single pilot, located in the chest section of the mobile suit. As dictated by protocol, all pilots were equipped with a spacesuit in the event of a hull breach, especially since the Zaku 2 was designed with space combat in mind. But the Zaku 2 is also used in numerous ground conflicts due to its mobility and versatility. It would see many improvements over its life in the field, including several heavily modified variants for specialized roles. This included a commander unit, cold weather operations, atmospheric flight, enhanced zero-gravity mobility, and many more. The most influential advancement made by Dr. Minovsky and his team was the development of the ultra-compact fusion generator, using the rare helium-3 taken from Jupiter's atmosphere as a fuel source for both the mobile suit's movements as well as their maneuvering thrusters. This cutting-edge generator was rated to produce 976 kilowatts, which allowed the Zaku to move unlike any other mobile suit of the time, at least for a while, until the accidental deployment of the RX-78-2 Gundam.
This must be the manual. Look at that, it's on.
Each unit was also equipped with a gimbaling twin-nozzle thruster pack, capable of producing over 41,000 kilograms or just over 90,000 pounds of thrust, making it more than capable against the Earth Federation Space Forces fighters, and even Salamis-class cruisers and Magellan-class battleships. Further agility and control is provided by a weaker thruster on the bottom of each of the mobile suit's feet, producing an additional 1,000 kilograms or about 2,200 pounds of thrust. For fine control in space, the Zaku 2 would make use of small RCS-style maneuvering jets to aid in altitude adjustments and for transferring the mobile suits in and out of hangar storage from their transports. These transports also helped to cut down on the precious helium-3 used by the Zakus during battle, allowing them to be delivered closer to the action, which meant more runtime for the pilots doing what they do best. On the ground, however, the Zaku 2 had to rely heavily on its mechanical legs to move through urban areas or even thick jungles. With a top speed of 88 km per hour or 55 miles per hour, and the benefit of its bipedal design, the Zaku could cover good ground, especially with the aid of its thruster pack. But with it also weighing over 40 metric tons, it only had a 180-degree turning speed of 1.7 seconds. One of the most identifiable features of the Zaku 2 are its external power pipes that connected to its power source and other key systems. Although often targeted as a weak spot, the idea behind this design was to allow the internals more room on the inside of its super hard steel alloy, making maintenance a lot easier for engineers, as well as allowing for parts to be easily upgraded or aided with the installation of expansions and conversions to specific types. All of these factors were intentionally designed to lower the costs and make it easier to work on. After all, this wasn't a one-off mobile suit, but a machine that could be used as a frontline fighting force with numbers en masse. And speaking of its super hard steel alloy armor, the Zaku featured a unique armor setup that helped with close quarters ramming attacks, as well as deflecting incoming projectiles. A large shoulder-mounted shield on the right arm and a spiked left pauldron accomplished just that. This allowed for different tactics to be used depending on the situation. Are you pushing up on an enemy position with oncoming fire? Then advance with your right shield. Are you deep in enemy territory with no more usable weapons? Then charge the nearest RGM-79 GM with your left and take theirs. Their upgrades were implemented from pilots using the MS-06A type, who thought that the suits would benefit from a more versatile armor pattern. These improvements were included from the Type C onward, making it a staple for many more mobile suit loadouts. Pilots of the A-type also wanted more firepower to go with Zeon's new war machines, moving from a 105mm machine gun up to a 120mm machine gun with a 100-round drum, along with the use of a brand new 280mm bazooka, able to fire multiple shots from a magazine before being discarded or reloaded. These were both ideal for engaging the space vessels of the time, or launching attacks on defenseless colonies that didn't believe in your cause. If you preferred to get up close and personal with your target, then the Type 5 Heat Hawk was for you. This used a superheated blade to cut through the enemy's vessels and even other mobile suits, with the energy being supplied directly from the reactor and transferred via the hands. Zaku 2's arsenal continues with several other weapons, including a flamethrower, body-mounted rocket pods, mobile suit-sized hand grenades, cluster bomb-style cracker grenades, a 175mm recoilless rifle taken directly off a tank, and a beam bazooka, also taken off a Musai-class deck gun. As for the history, the Zaku 2 is a vision of the future to come, with war no longer being fought just by crews of battleships or soldiers in ground conflicts. There was now a new machine capable of destroying entire cities, with each one only being piloted by a single person. And with the principality of Zeon's ability to mass-produce these new types of vehicles, especially at the dangerous thresholds of war, the Earth Federation was taken by surprise, even with a space force over 3 times the size of Zeon's. The Zaku itself was the determining factor during the Battle of Loom in the coming one-year war. It was the major force used to carry out the attacks of the colony of Side 2, turning that whole colony into a mega bomb, as it was forced at a Lagrange point 4 and set on a collision course with Earth during Operation British, which resulted in the deaths of billions. The MS-06A type was barely an upgrade when compared to its predecessor, the MS-05 Zaku 1. We don't see big changes until the MS-06C type. This came from that essential pilot feedback that we spoke about earlier, and a complete overhaul of almost all systems, including the upgrades and weapons. Pre-production models were designated MS-06A, with just enough features to satisfy Zeon High Command, who had almost scrapped the project due to a lack of results. After further improvements, the full mass production units received the C-type designation and began to see action. These were used during the initial stages of the one-year war, until all were refitted even further into the MS-06F. Perhaps the most famous pilot of the Zaku 2 was the fabled Red Comet himself, Char Aznable. Char's mysterious past and his incredible skill as a tactician and mobile suit pilot saw him rise through the ranks of the Zeon military, with distinction from the generals of the Zabi family themselves, the ones who had orchestrated this new war and pushed for the freedom of all space noids from the Earth sphere. Char piloted a commander variant of the Zaku 2 known as the MS-06S. These commander units were identified by their distinct communications antenna located on the head, and their improved performance. They were only given to higher-ranking pilots or aces, with Char sporting a red and maroon livery. This paired with an increased thruster output of at least 30%, and with the clever use of terrain and debris to boost off, allowed it to achieve speeds 3 times greater than your standard Zaku 2. Other notable pilots included aces Johnny Raiden, along with the Black Tri-Stars, Lieutenant Gaia, Lieutenant Junior Grade Ortega, and Lieutenant Junior Grade Mash. All members of the Tri-Stars were involved in the development of the entire mobile suit program, acting as test pilots for each new iteration. This means they had the most real-time flight hours out of anyone when the MS-06 was rolled out, but they still managed to get outshined by the infamous Red Comet. Aside from the MS-06S commander type, other variants proved to be required when filling a specialized role. As for general infantry, however, the aforementioned MS-06F received even further improvements, increasing its performance and armament. The Type F was the mobile suit that saw the most units created, and formed the backbone of Zeon's new army. Somehow, MS-06F was allowed to perform even better after a signing of a treaty in Scott City, Antarctica, banning the use of sides as mega bombs, as well as the use of nuclear weapons. This meant that the heavy radiation shielding could be removed from much of the mobile suit, making it even lighter and faster. The Type F would see another round of modifications with the development of the newer MS-06F2. This new Zaku came with a new look, sporting heavier armor, pilot protection, and a more powerful Minovsky generator. With increasing roles being pushed to the Zaku, another refresh came with a new design and even more armor. Towards the end of the Universal Century 0079, the MS-06FZ Zaku 2 Kai was put into service. This redesign featured 2 helmet styles, a new cockpit, and even more weapon options and greater thrust acceleration, resulting in a new top land speed of 103 km per hour, or 64 miles per hour. But these all came with the drastic drawback that the units could only operate for half the time of the original Zaku, despite a lighter weight armor material that was more resistant to beam weapon attacks and larger fuel tanks. So that's it for its history and breakdown, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. The Zaku was created by mechanical designer Kunio Okawara as the villain's expendable army in the original 1979 anime Mobile Suit Gundam. The Zakus were seen in the very first episode of the show and were the expendable force for the villains to throw at the RX-78-2 Gundam. The director of the show, Yoshiyuki Tomino, had actually designed his own version of the Zaku, but it was replaced by Okawara's design and only the name remained. The Zaku also makes several appearances throughout the Gundam universe and timelines, in one form or another. Several other shows take place in alternate realities, but still feature a Zaku-like villain, sometimes even dressed up in the same green color scheme. So that's it for the Zaku 2. If you want to connect with us on social media, find ways that you can help support this channel for free, or check out our Patreon and PayPal, be sure to check out the links in the description. Special shout out to our supporters over on Patreon, but most important of all, remember, there is hope between the stars.